I'm going to say something that in my 10 plus years as a radio professional, I was never allowed to or should have said to the hundreds of thousands of people that listened or interacted with me and the radio stations that I work for. I don't want to be here today, and I don't want to do this. Let's get into it. I don't know what it is. I'm having a hard time with how do I phrase this? I don't feel inspired by life at the moment. And I don't know what that is. Sometimes I wonder if I'm on social media too much. Sometimes I wonder if, it's something in my relationships, maybe my health. I know I deal with anxiety, undiagnosed, of course. Everybody says they have it, and they have depression on it. But because there's so much information out there, you can get a pretty great idea of why you feel the way that you feel. And if you read and study and, don't just assume, you're going to get a pretty good explanation as long as you go to multiple sources. So I deal with a lot of anxiety, some depression, things like that. And I'm usually pretty good about kind of recognizing it and moving past it. But maybe I'm at a point now where I've recognized it and moved past it so many times that it's just not going anywhere. That it's just sticking around this time. Because I don't want to be here. Like, I don't want to do this right now. This is the only time this week, before Wednesday, or in general, that I'm going to have time to knock out this episode. And when I used to work in radio, there were hundreds, if not thousands of mornings that I felt that way. But you turn it on. You turn it on, you go to work, you do your shift. If you're in sales, you go out, you see your clients, you move past it, and you deal with it later on. Not to say that you don't ever deal with it, but you just, in the profession, you just turn it on. And I just don't feel like turning it on today. I could have came on here. I could have found all kinds of stuff in the news to kind of talk about. I could have joked. I could have basically lied to you. But I can't. So this may be a 10-minute podcast today. But it is what it is. The only thing that got me back into wanting to even do this, well, two things. The first one was I try to practice what I preach. And what I preach is I don't necessarily do this show for anything other than myself, because I like doing it. It's a creative outlet. And that sort of thing. It fills a void that we talk about where I used to do radio. And I used to talk to people every day, constantly, for hours on end. So it fills that void once a week to be able to sit down and do this, even if it's for 15, 30 minutes. But the other reason I do it is because if one thing I say, or if anything I say every week helps just one other person besides myself, because I don't want to be selfish, then I feel like I've done my job. This podcast makes no money. It's a passion project. It's a creative venture that I chose to do. And because I have this mentality of, well, I'm not going to start something without seeing it through, I have to do this every week. Now, there have been some technical issues. There have been some things where, some family emergencies have come up where I have taken some time. I've taken a week off or whatever. But for the most part, I've tried to do this every single week because I feel like if you do like to listen or watch, I owe that to you. And I also owe it to myself to be able to do this regularly. So that's one reason why I am doing it today, is that hopefully if I say all these things, not only will it make me feel a little bit better, mentally, physically, all the things, but maybe it'll help somebody else out there. Maybe they're going through the same thing, and maybe this will help them. The second reason behind getting up here to do this today is that I read this morning. I got up early. I'm trying to get back into a routine because I just accepted a job. So anybody that's following me since October, we've essentially been jobless. I mean, not totally jobless, but nothing like what I accepted the other day, which we may be able to get more details later on. But basically, I've got a full-time job coming up. So I'm trying to get back into the routine because I start on Tuesday. By the time you watch this, I'll have already been at work at this point, probably, for a couple days. So I got up this morning early to do my old school routine where I would drink some coffee, have some time for reflection, try to get up. This time of year, you're not really up before the sunrise, even if you're up at 5:30, and also read in my Bible. And this morning, God just keeps doing it to me. And it wasn't that I was questioning him or my purpose or anything, but I was just questioning. I don't know. I was worried about a lot of things, and you have this anticipation anxiety that what if this opportunity that I've agreed to do isn't what I think it is, or if it's not as lucrative as I want it to be, or what if another opportunity comes up, or what if I get into this new job and I find out that it's just actually terrible? You start worrying about what might happen as opposed to dealing with it, what is happening in the moment. And that's something that we all deal with, I feel like. And it's something that I try to preach to my daughter, and even my wife for that matter, that you're worrying more about what could happen as opposed to what is actually happening. There's no indication that anything in front of you is going to be necessarily bad. But you start worrying about that sort of thing. And this morning was no different, but I forced myself to get up, and I forced myself to try to get back into that same routine. And like I do every time I read in the Bible, I just open it randomly because I don't really have necessarily a goal in mind. I just want to be more familiar with what is in here. And sometimes I open it up and there's nothing that really jumps out to me, but hey, that doesn't mean that there isn't something in there that maybe I can keep. So I try to pay attention, even though if it's not like life-changing, scripture or word that comes out. But today it was pretty good. I was Proverbs 23. I got down to, I'll jump around, but verse 16. My inmost being will exult when your lips speak what is right. Let not your heart envy sinners, but continue in the fear of the Lord. Surely there is a future, and your hope will not be cut off. Basically, I felt like it was trying to tell me, speak what you know is right, which is what I'm trying to do right now, and hope for your future will never be cut off. And I feel like the more I've tried to talk about this sort of thing, my own personal issues, my faith journey, which if you go back, I think it's one of the first 5 or 10 episodes, my wife and I have a long discussion about our journey of faith and where we are. Even then, at the time, compared to where we are now, is totally different. And there's just a lot of things happening that, because we're pouring more into something, we feel like we're getting more coming out of it. But there's this wave of emotions that come back and forth, and it affects everything. It affects your daily life. It affects your relationships. And you don't know in the moment how to explain that to anyone. I guess I should probably just take this video and send it to everybody closest to me and be like, look, if I've been acting a little bit weird here lately, it's because of this. I just don't, I keep going back to, I feel like I don't get excited, or I'm not motivated by life right now. And maybe that'll change. Like I said, I'm talking to you on Monday morning, Monday afternoon. Maybe that'll change. Maybe my purpose and my life will feel more fulfilled once I get into this new job. But in this current time that I'm sitting in, and for the last couple of days, 2 or 3 days, it has been a slow decline of how I've felt. And I I wonder if it's fear, if it's anxiety, if it's depression, if it's maybe the current landscape of the world. And we don't really get political here, and I'm not going to, but there's political ties to everything, even socially. And in the social world, like I mentioned, maybe some of my anxiety is coming from being on social media too much. Maybe because I'm focusing on everybody else's problems, I feel like they're more my own. But some of the problems on social media that are coming up in my algorithm, imagine that, are the job market. And it's a job, I have firsthand knowledge. I had a VP of marketing at a giant company make the comment to me, I don't know how people get a job these days without knowing somebody already at the company, or just knowing somebody in general to get them that job. And that feels way more true than it ever had. Everybody keeps saying there's a generation of people, and I'm in that generation, that we're told as long as you graduate high school, go to college, get a degree, you'll never want for anything. You'll always have the opportunity for a job. Well, guess what? I lost my job that I went to get a degree for, yet I have 10 plus years of experience in a field that's kind of vast. It includes sales, marketing, content creation, all kinds of stuff. Client relations, management, promotional, PR. It includes all these different facets. And yet, to every job I applied, I got told no, or I got zero interaction. I've yet to have one interview, except the one I'm going to take now. I knew a guy who knew a guy. I got in front of said guy for the employer. They got in front of the employer and basically proved that I was worthy of an offer. How does anybody do that if you want to move to another state or work in a different industry, even though you've got enough experience to work in that industry, if you're not even getting the opportunity from the jump to have a conversation? And how do you not feel the way I'm feeling? Feel upset and have anxiety and feel stress. I had a weight loss appointment this morning with my weight loss program people. Shout out Premier U and Marion. Lost over 125 pounds. Actually, it was more than that from November of 2023. Now we're down to about 125 down total. We're fluctuating back and forth right now. We're struggling, but we're still good. Had a conversation with them. They're running some new testing and doing some new things, and they basically said, based on some of these tests that we've done, I think they said it was either resting heart rate or something. Basically, I have learned to live in fight or flight mode. When she said that, I was like, whoa. She goes, it's become your new norm. It's like your stress levels are at a point where this is what you know, and this is what your body is capable of, and this is what it's dealing with. Imagine that. Imagine feeling that and then being told that and then wondering how many other people are living that way and don't even know it. And it really has nothing to do with money. I mean, I've come to the realization that as long as I have my faith and I keep a good perspective, I'll never go without. And I've got good people around me, so I'll never go without. There's always some way of earning money to pay the bills. I'm living proof of that. I got fired in October, and other than, I think we missed like 1 or 2 payments of something just while we were trying to figure some stuff out. But I've already repaid those. I mean, I'm caught up on pretty much everything. So it's just like, it's just the lack of opportunity and the worry. I don't know. It's all these things where you start to think, well, maybe it's because I'm not making enough money. And I know people always say money doesn't matter. And I'm like, well, you have money. That's why you say that. So that's the worry that you don't have. But maybe there is some truth to that. And I always talk about perspective, and I always talk about keeping your perspective in a place where you don't focus or fantasize. You don't have false idols in your life. But you start to wonder. And then there's always the cost of everything. I think I paid $4.80 something for gas today, a gallon. $77 to fill up my little tank. I don't have a very big car. It's like a 15, 16 gallon, whatever it is, tank. Well, I paid over $100. I mean, so it's that. And then there's the groceries. And then there's you got to work out. You got to exercise. Well, but you also got to take your kid to gymnastics and softball. But you also got to come home and fold the laundry and do the dishes, which aren't done. And you got to make the meals because you got to eat at home. But sometimes you got to eat out because you're on the... It's just... Yeah, it's life. But when life starts to outpace your current reality, you're going to have some issues. It just feels like I'm not only in a fight or flight mode at all times with how I'm feeling, but we're in a fight or flight society. It's like an all or nothing society. And I will say there's a lot of studies out there, and there's a lot of articles online that talk about the job market. And my firsthand experience is not great. So I tend to agree with people who say the job market is terrible and it's almost impossible. And like I said, the VP of a big company, VP of marketing in a big company said, how do you even get a job if you don't know somebody? I feel like there's a lot of truth to that. But there is some articles out there that talk about how it's just a slow burn in the positive direction. It's a slow hire. Everybody is slowly hiring. And a lot of that has to do with AI. We don't have to get in that discussion because I'm going to have a divided audience at all times whenever you start to talk about AI, because I personally think in general it will be a good thing. But I think there's everybody else on the other side is like, absolutely not. It's the scariest thing in the world. I just don't think that's true. But I'm also trying to learn more about it before I form a complete opinion. So yeah, cost of living, job market, regular anxiety, regular day-to-day, questions without any answers. I mean, I do feel 100 times, not 100 times better, but I do feel much better after just talking to you right now and just kind of talking it out. I feel much better than I did this morning, and definitely better than I did yesterday. Yesterday was not a great day for me. But it's a fight or flight society. It feels like, anyway. And it's like you try not to focus on too much of the negative, because I don't know the exact percentage, but it feels like most of the 90% or more maybe is out of your control on a lot of this stuff. So why are you worrying about things that you can't control or fix? And it's like, well, but I should be able to control how much money I'm making to a certain extent. And then you would think that would control this and that would control this. And it's just, nobody has any time. There's too many things to do, and everything's expensive, and nobody has enough money to afford it, but nobody's saving enough either. Everybody's doing too much, but we're also not doing enough. That's what it feels like right now. It's fight or flight. It's back and forth. It's the tug and the tear and the rip to one side and the rip to the other, and it's just constant. And for a guy like me, maybe I'm too emotional, or maybe I wear my heart on my sleeve, or whatever it may be. But I think there's a lot of truth to it. And I think regardless if you're some tough guy or tough gal, or, you're making hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars a year and you're doing okay, there's probably a miniature version of what I'm talking about in your life on a regular basis. And you're able to maybe deal with it a little bit better. Well, good for you. And I'm glad for that. But whatever position and level I'm in right now, my perspective is pretty skewed to one way, and it's been tough. It's getting better. But last thing I'll say, Proverbs 23, verse 4, do not toil to acquire wealth, be discerning enough to desist. And for those of you that need a little bit of a definition, because I did too, the workaholic is exhorted to be discerning enough to desist in the pursuit of wealth. Suddenly it sprouts wings. Wealth is fleeting. There should come a point when a person decides he has enough and he will devote some of his time and effort to valuable activities that bring no financial reward. Wealth is fleeting. And while that's true, there's a lot going on in the world that makes you wonder what else can be done. But again, it's not all about the money side of things. It's just everything. And that is a piece of what is going on. Not only in my life, but I feel like a lot of yours as well. So, although I didn't want to be here and I didn't want to do this, I'm glad I did, A. And like I said, there was 2 reasons why. This told me that I should, because I should speak those into, what did I say? I'm going to say it again so I don't forget, because I'm going to keep trying to say it. When your lips speak what is right, let not your heart envy sinners, but continue in the fear of the Lord. There is a future, and your hope will not be cut off when you speak what is right. But also, I did it for myself, just like this show. I do it for myself in a sense, but I also do it because hopefully someone out there is going through the same thing, or even if they, hopefully they're not, but if they are, maybe I helped in some way, kind of speak it into some form that helps them work through it in some way. Because it helps me to do this and get it out there and get it off my chest. So hopefully it helps someone too. We went from the best podcast ever last week with my 6-year-old to what could potentially be the worst. But if it helped you, let me know in the comments. And we'll see you next week. Make sure you go out there, live your best life to the best of your ability. Even if that means just showing up and getting whatever you need done in one day. This morning I got up, read my book, reflected, made partial of the breakfast. I made one half. My wife ended up making the other. I loaded the dishwasher. I delivered clothes. Helped get the kids ready for school. I went to a doctor's appointment for my weight loss program. And then I did this. So I guess today that was me living my best life. That was the best I could do today. And sometimes that's all you can do. And you only have one life to live, so you might as well make it your own way. Because not only do you only have one life, but you also only have your name. And a name is what you make it, and it's the only thing that you leave behind. So make your own way. A name is what you make it. It's the 2 pillars of this entire podcast and what I've lived my life on. And hopefully, like I said, hopefully this helps somebody more than just me today. So catch you next time. Like and subscribe and all the things.